Hi, welcome back to the great Bright Futures Baking Club in Miss Kate's Kitchen. I'm so excited to have you back. Today we are going to be doing our third bake, which is bread in a bag. I'm really interested to see how this is going to turn out because I've never made bread in a bag before. Also, a lot of you already know, but I'm gluten-free, so I'm going to be using different flour than you today, but you have regular self-rising flour, so this should work. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it works for me too. But let's get started. I'm really excited. I hope you are too. And I already laid out my ingredients in front of me, photo to come. And we have flour, olive oil, salt, warm water, so like almost hot water, but warm. And we also have some instant yeast, sugar, and we have our gallon-sized bag. So let's get started. Hello again. So I've put all of my ingredients into the bag except for my warm water. So that is 1 cup of flour, your already measured out instant rising yeast, your sugar, and your salt, not your salt. Do not put your salt in. Remember, we have to read our recipe, and I am reading mine as I go. So what I want to do now is I want to add my warm water. This is 1 cup of warm water. And then I'm going to squeeze all the air out of the bag. And zip. You don't want any extra air in here. You want the warm water to mix with the yeast and the sugar, and then we're going to squish it with our hands. Hi, welcome back. It should have been 10 minutes since you paused this video so that you can look in your bag and see that there is bubbles that have been forming. That means that the yeast and the sugar are working together to create bubbles. And we're going to unzip our bag. You should have another, ooh, quite bubbly in there, yeah. You should have another 1 cup of flour measured out. We're gonna just dump that right in. Carefully, you wanna make sure it all gets in there. All right, and then we're also adding our 3 tablespoons of olive oil. So that goes right in. And then we're also adding our 1.5 teaspoons of salt. These were probably pre-measured for you, but if you want to double check the measurements with your spoons, that's totally cool, and I encourage that. You want to practice measuring. Measuring is great. Baking has a lot to do with math. And for me, it's math in a fun way. So now we're also, again, going to take out all the air in our bag. Try to get out all that you can. And then I'm gonna zip it across so that no air can get back in. And once again, we are going to squish, 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 squish until everything is really well combined. Like, obviously, that's not very well combined. So let's take some time and squish this bag up. Everything should be pretty well combined. If you can see, you don't see any excess flour. All the oil has been mixed in, everything. So our directions tell us that after we blend this again, and now that it's all well mixed together, we open it up at our last cup of flour. So we are using 3 cups of flour in total. So here we go, dumping it in. There we go. And we are going to take out the air. Now you're gonna notice there's some air in the bag because when there's bubbles, there's air building up within the dough. That's how the yeast and the sugar work together. So the sugar feeds the yeast and then creates bubbles and air within the dough so that it rises in the oven, which is kind of cool. All right, let's mix this bag up one more time until everything is completely combined and there's no flour left. Okay, so my bread is combined in my bag. And then I just dusted some flour onto my surface here so that we are going to turn out, which means basically to remove your dough from your bag. You're going to turn out your dough. And I noticed that I don't think I mixed it as much as I should have, because you can still see that some things need to be mixing, right? So this is a messy, messy part of the bake, which is actually sometimes the most fun. But we are going to need, need with a K, to knead this together for 5 to 10 minutes. And this can be a lot of work for your hands, and it's gonna get pretty messy. So make sure that you're wearing your apron or something that you don't mind getting a little bit of flour on. And what you're doing is you're just bringing all of this together to combine to make one solid big loaf of bread, okay? So you use the heel of your hand, mix it together, you bring the dough back together, and you're gonna do this, and then you're gonna see that all the flour will combine. It's a lot of work too. So keep kneading for 5 to 10 minutes, making sure all of your dough is combining, and I will see you back here. You can pause the video, and when the time we're done, we will have beautifully kneaded bread. See you soon. Okay, so we are all done kneading our dough, and our next step in our recipe says that we need to put half of our dough, so if you just score the dough like this, and then we'll do a little chop, but first we should line our little pan with grease, so you can use your olive oil if you have any left over. I'm just gonna do a little bit of that. If you don't have olive oil, that's totally okay. I'm just mixing it around the pan, and then taking a paper towel, I'm just gonna sort of like rub it around. And this is so the bread doesn't stick into while it bakes, because you want to be able to get the bread out of the container, right? So we wanna just make sure that it's in all the little crevices so that when we try to turn out the bread from the pan, taking it out of the pan, then it won't stick and it'll easily come out, which is what we would like to do. Now, we are cutting our bread in half. You can just eyeball it, you don't need to measure. All right, and these small pans will fit 1/2 of your bread, okay? So I'm just gonna reform it. Or if you would choose to, if you have a bread pan at home and you wanna make one large, big bread loaf, then you could do that too. We're gonna put this baby right in here, and then we're going to find a clean kitchen towel. That's right, clean. That can be any kind of towel that is clean. If it's not a kitchen towel, then use like a washcloth, but again, please make sure it's clean, clean, clean. Then we're going to cover our bread for 30 minutes, and we're gonna let it rise. So when you were kneading the dough, when you were mixing it all together on your lightly floured surface, what was happening was you were building up the gluten, the protein in the bread that helps it to rise. So we want to make sure that we now give it some time to work together with the yeast and the sugar, and it's going to rise in our loaf pan if everything turned out right. So you're going to cover that for 30 minutes roughly, so set a timer, and then your oven should be preheated. If you haven't preheated your oven, please preheat it now to 375, and then when we get back, we're going to throw it in the oven and bake it for 25 to 30 minutes or until it's golden on top. See you in a minute. Welcome back. That was a long half hour. All right, so now we're gonna check on our dough to see if it's risen. I added my second half of dough to a bowl, also lined with oil so that that would also rise. But let's check on it and see what happened. Okay, moment of truth. Well, it definitely did rise a little bit. This is great. You can see it kind of jumps back a little bit when I touch it. And then this one as well. Ooh, if you hear that, that's a good sound. Good sound indeed. Okay, so we are going to put this little guy into the oven for 25 to 35 minutes at 375. 375. And then we'll get it out, let it cool for a minute or two, more than a minute or two, and then we will see how it goes. You can pause the video now, and then I will see you on the other side of the baking. As always, don't forget to clean. I'm looking at my bread, and it looks a little bit golden on the top. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this out. It did rise slightly, and I really hope it tastes good. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. Okay, this is where you need a grown-up's help to pull your bread out of the oven with an oven mitt because this is hot, hot, hot. So again, grown-ups, we need your help here. Here it is, here's our bread. We're letting it cool because we know that it is gonna be warm to touch. So this has been cooling for a few minutes now. I'm just gonna still use my oven mitt, very well used oven mitt, to remove from the pan, and look at that on the bottom. Can you hear that? That supposedly means that it is a very nice bake inside. That kind of a hollow sound. So I see all the professional bread makers do that, especially on the Great British Baking Show, which you know is my fave. So I'm going to give it a slice. Let's see what it's like inside. A little crusty outside. Nice and steamy inside still. So I probably didn't let it cool enough. Maybe let it cool for a little bit longer. But there's nothing quite like the smell of fresh bread. Now mine will be a little bit more like closed in texture is what they call it, because it doesn't have as many holes, because mine is gluten-free. But hopefully yours is full of holes and loveliness and deliciousness. You can put some butter on this. You can put jam or peanut butter or honey or bananas or avocado or anything you can think of. You now have made your own fresh bread for your family. So congratulations. This is amazing. And don't forget to clean up. Thank your grown-up for helping you. And we'll see you next time. Enjoy your bread.